Hi everybody, it's RPG Grandma. I promised I was going to do something today. Alpha Dawn rules, the expanded game rules for Star Frontiers. Yes, we are filming from the room. I can close the door and have some privacy. So, this is it. I live in a very small house. Very small. You guys have no idea. All right, so let's look at the book because it's Reading with Grandma. Ooh, see the action? So we've got a Rusk, a human, a Dorsalicite. And look at the cars. They're cool. I like the cars in Star Frontiers. They kind of remind me of the Blade Runner cars, but you know. So we have an introduction. And the introduction goes over some of the differences between the basic game and the regular game. For instance, they replace the word reader with referee. And they give you more information about why the referee's job is important. And that this book is specifically written for the referee. In other words, this is the Game Master's Guide, the DM Guide. There's a lot of stuff in here the players simply don't need to know. And then it goes on to components, counter facing. Players can use counters to indicate which direction the creature is facing. So it starts talking the importance of tactics, maps, reminds you about the map scale that we already previously talked about. They start talking about playing without maps. For all the people who don't think there's any theater of mind, there is in this game. They talk about miniatures. They talk about using your imagination. They talk about the dice again. They go over rounding fractions up. They give some examples about what they mean. Remember, they're writing for kids. They're trying to be very, very clear. Which, you know, for adults, that's also great when they're very, very clear in the rules. All right, so now we get expanded game characters. So the next step is creating your characters. So what you do is you get your Starfruiter's character sheet, you make a copy on blank paper, and you start rolling those D100s. And you look up your dice roll to get your base score. You decide which race your character will be. Then you make your racial adjustments. Now, a lot of people, I don't know, today have a problem with that. I don't. I consider it an aspect of trying to make the creatures in the game different instead of everybody the same. So, you know, for strength stamina, Dralicites are +5. For dexterity, reaction speed, they're -5. Intelligence, logic, leadership, there's no modification there. And it goes through a very similar process that we already did. So if the character is human, the player gets an option to add 5 points to any one ability score because they have no other modifiers. These points apply to only one ability, not to both abilities in a pair. So you're going to go through basically what we did to make the basic character. Okay. And then it talks about non-human characters with special abilities. So Duralicites, lie detection, 5%. And then they've got the elasticity. Rusk have a comprehension, 15%. And their ambidextrous. The Yazarians, battle rage, 5%. Gliding and night vision for them. So this is some information that wasn't in the basics. So if your character is a human or you're a Zarian, decide whether he's right or left-handed. Duralicites and Rusk do not choose handiness because Duralicites, they just you know, they just blob a hand out there, right? Decide whether your character is male and female unless it's Duralocite and give it a name. Then you roll D100 and add the result to 250. The final result is the number of credits the character has to start the game. So you can go buy equipment. All right. Then we get into ability checks. And I'm want to do a quick overview here. We'll come back to that. You start, as we talk about, improving characters, skills, and we get into the races. I wanted to get to the races so you could see how they gave you a really nice one-page write-up on each of the races, which I think, let me know if you want me to go over all these individual races. Rusk, your Zarian, and we get the evil Sathar. Woo-hoo. One of my favorite bad guys. And then we get into skills, which is one of the differences between the expanded rules and the basic rules is the skill system. And just a quick overview, there's 13 different skills, and they fall into categories of military skills, technical skills, biological skills. And they have how to learn skills. And basically, you use your experience points to buy your skills. It's how you become better, more skilled at what you do. So for those of you who like a skilled system, good news. This is actually a skill system. And I loved it. And I also love class systems. So, and then we have pages and pages of information on these skill categories. And you have like a primary skills, and you have like secondary skills, and the cost of the experience points is different. So we have a more, a better movement rules. We have expanded combat rules, of course. Firing 2 weapons, for example, more on grenades, special actions, robots, animals. We have a whole section on creating monsters. We have equipment, the economy of the frontier, which is something everybody's scratched their heads over the years. We have stuff on cars, collisions, all that stuff. So we'll just start going over this. Flying, whole monster section. Some of the funnest monsters are in here too. They've got some fun monsters. Weapons descriptions, defensive stuff, computers, language, space travel, a map of the frontier. Okay. And we start, the game does eventually develop a timeline, and how that happens is a combination of modules, some of the information in here, and then they do a major timeline reboot when Zeb's comes out, Zebulon's Guide. And the timelines don't necessarily mesh well. Some parts do and some parts don't. But that's a quick overview. Now, people who are looking for the Star Frontier stuff, get back to me about what you would like to see first. I mean, I can just start going through it like I did the other book, or I can target specific areas first. We could do the races first. You guys might find that really interesting, how they present the humans, and we could talk about like each of the races an episode of the core 4 and our one major bad guy race. But let me know, all right? So we're going to start this. Reading with Grandma. Reading rules. It's exciting. Game mechanics. Woo! Okay. Everybody have a great day. Talk to you later.